one of the easiest ways to increase the profitability of your business is through email marketing. And a lot of people don't talk about it because it doesn't sound the sexiest, but you'd be surprised to know that most e-commerce stores at a high level produce 20% or even more of their overall revenue through email marketing. And what that means is they don't have to spend money on ads to, make those sales or anything like that. So this is why it's so powerful to build an email marketing system. And in today's video, I got the best person possible in order to talk about this. It's a short podcast, but it's very, very dense with value. It's with my friend Umar, and we basically break down $1 million day that he did with his agency for a client through email drops. So an extremely effective strategy for any e-commerce business. This is actually for an e-commerce business. That's who he mainly works with. So extremely excited to share this with you. And, Umar and I have worked together on several clients, even at the 8-figure level, with my agency Akemi on the media buying side and him on the backend systems. So it's pretty cool to finally do this. I mean, it's about time, really. So yeah, he also left a little goodie bag, you could say. He has a PDF of all of this that we discuss in the description so that you can leave this interview with something tangible, not just the knowledge, even though the knowledge is extremely valuable. But yeah, without further ado, this is the interview with Umar. Umar, I'm super hyped to have you here, man. We've been having these conversations for so long. We work together on a lot of different things. You're a legend, and I'm happy we finally got you on the channel, man. How are you doing?
Awesome, bro. I'm doing phenomenal. How's everything with you, Arie?
Pretty good, pretty good. It's been a busy morning, but happy we found the time to do this. I know we've been trying to for a while, but yeah, man. So first, I would like to start out with a little bit of an introduction because you have this thing you want to share that is incredible and I think will be really helpful for the community. And it's they'll probably see it in the title, but it's a
Yeah.
$1 million drop, basically playbook, which I mean you could easily be charging for that. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. Of
But
course.
can we introduce it a little bit, maybe a little bit of context?
Yeah, absolutely. So, to give a very easy brief on what it actually is it's $1 million day, and I hate to say like $1 million day because realistically it was done in about 12 hours,
Damn.
right? And like ecom, there's only certain amount of hours that like you could really feasibly run traffic for without like no one's buying at like 3 a.m., 2 a.m., right? So yeah, I mean, with this brand, we were able to do $1 million within a single day. And it just literally crossed right over that million. Like I was literally looking at it and I was taking the screenshots of upwards of like 900, 950. And it was nearing the end of the day and they're on the West Coast as well too. And then I'm like, oh, come on, come on, come on. It passes, what's it called? Midnight on the East Coast. And I'm like, all right, sweet. And then it just barely crosses it by like 50 grand, I think. But yeah, it's not anything small to say the least. Like this was the second time that we've ever done it. I think the first time was like about 2 years back, and when you did like an overview on the tweet. But that was a different thing. And the reason I say that was a different thing was that was a merch launch for celebrities and everything like that. Those always go crazy. But this was for like a normal everyday brand. Like
Really?
yeah, you will not know this brand. I guarantee you could ask 10 people, they won't know this brand. It's like a very super average brand that people come across probably on their social media. Maybe they get hit with their ads once in a while, but just nothing crazy, right?
Wow.
But yeah, just to preface it, it was something that we were planning for about 2-ish weeks. Huge risk that we did take by like essentially shutting the store down. But in reality, we just stopped running ads entirely for like a couple weeks just because we wanted to save that budget for that launch date. And it ended up working like
Dude, that's
crazy.
insane, man. I actually didn't know the context myself. I thought it was like a streetwear type of brand because I know that was your big thing
Yeah,
back in the day. Actually, that's a big reminder. I remember doing that video.
yeah,
I think that's kind of what brought us together in the first place. When
absolutely.
we,
Yeah.
wow, that's awesome. So yeah, bro, let's jump in it. I'd love to see this playbook.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so let me go and share my screen. Um, so I put this together. Mind you, this happened on it was like March 9th, March 10th. This is about maybe I want to say close to 2 months ago. I put this together maybe 20, 30 days after just because it was such a crazy thing that happened, and the snowball effect afterwards as well too was
Mm-hmm.
absolutely insane. Like things like this don't happen too often, so when they do happen, I definitely want to document it and go through exactly how it is that we did it without necessarily making it too over achievable, because really, like the way I break it down here, it makes it seem like, oh, I can just go ahead and pop off and do $1 million a day tomorrow, right, or the day after. Or I can do this with my brand that has like 20,000 contacts on their list. No. So to preface it, starting off with this, I'll go ahead and give you the strategy behind what they actually do, what they sell, everything like that, so you have a bit more context. By any means, this is not a small brand. But at the same time, they have like less than 100,000 followers on Instagram. Like there's bigger brands than them. The way that we achieved to do this $1 million day was a product launch. This is something that I've been preaching, Ari, you obviously know, for the last like 2 years. But essentially, you have a single product or a collection or something new to your store, to your audience, to your customers. And then what you basically do is take that product, you take that collection, you take whatever that new innovation that you have added to your store, and you market it to your audience in a very specific way. The very specific way that you go about doing this is essentially pushing extreme scarcity. And a lot of the times people say this and they go ahead and be like, oh, just limit your products and everything like that. But for this launch, we only had about 10,000, 11,000 SKUs available, and that was it. Meaning if we were to have like more SKUs, they would probably do more. They ran out of stock, truthfully, for something like this. They only had 10,000 SKUs. AOV was about $100. So do the math. It's roughly about $1 million, right? And they were not expecting this whatsoever. But let's dive into the actual brand itself, how we went ahead and went about doing something like this. So it's an accessory brand. It's a home accessory brand. Not obviously going to get too much into it because I have NDA signed, of course. But essentially, they wanted to launch a collection, right? They already have 12, 15 SKUs, really great lifetime value, really great customer service as well too. Just because when you're selling a product that's $100, like you can't be having trashy communication and customer service, especially when they're coming back and purchasing over and over again, right? So to preface this, they were already doing 30 to 50K per day. So they were already doing extremely great numbers. If you were to break this down, say they're doing on the high end 50K per day, and we shut their store down for about, I want to say roughly 2-ish weeks, they would have done about close to I want to say close to 750, almost even upwards of that $1 million. But the thing is, they would be running a lot more ads. They would be putting a lot more focus on other products that they might not have wanted to, that they have lower margin on, that realistically wouldn't have gotten them to this realistic result, right? Now, that being said, when we first started working with them about 8 months ago, when we did this launch, they did about 140K in the first day, the first ever launch we did, which is insane. I didn't even think we could do something like that for them, especially. And at that time, they were only averaging about like 15K per day, 10 to 15K per day. So 140K jump was insane, right? But now they've raised that bar to like that 30 to 50K per day. Now things are like, okay, a little bit worried. Back then we were, probably closing the site down for maybe like, not closing the site down, but we were basically hyping up the collection for only 2-3-ish days. Now we've extended that to like 10 days, 12 days, right? So now it's like really scary. They're potentially missing out on an additional $200,000 worth of sales if this flops. Right. And it's a lot of pressure, obviously. But that being said, after that bench line of the 140K day, they wanted to do more. Of course, any sort of brand owner will want to take the risk of like, all right, it worked in the past before. How can we replicate it so we could do it again? So thereafter, we did it a few times over around that similar range, but never really quite hit, the grail $1 million day. Right. Even though we were doing virtually the same strategy over and over again, right? But nevertheless, we go back to the drawing board and we end up putting together a strategy very like 90% similar to this. But of course, it comes down to the brand as well too. Depending on your brand, you need to be able to curate your emails, your audience, your designs, everything for that brand. You don't want to be putting together like that's just a copy paste template. It's not going to work. So step number one, this is how we figured out what we want to go ahead and do a product launch for them. So their accessory, it can be customized into different colors, different things like that, right? So now we already know that they like the specific product. Now let's go ahead and take the same product and release them in different colorways, different designs, different things like that. But the fundamental product itself, it's still the same. They're still purchasing the same product. It's just a different design, right? So the way that we got to know this was by sending a poll, right? It's very simple. We sent out, initially we used to do type forms. You can do type forms. You could build out polls within your actual emails themselves. However way you want to do it, you want to be able to send this out. And on top of that, the main thing is you want to give them a choice. That's the huge thing that people don't really do. They just ask them questionnaires. We didn't do that. We asked them specifically, hey, do you want this product in red, green, blue, or yellow? You know, say 50% of them say red, we're only going to be doing a launch on that red. But now, say it's 25, 10, and then 15 with the remainder of people. Now we know the next launch we do, we're going to ask them a poll, hey, do you guys want blue, red, or yellow? Now majority of people are going to say blue. So now it creates this effect of, hey, you know, now these customers, we know what their number one favorite is, their second, third, fourth. So we've already have our next 4 product launches already based out just from that one poll.
That's smart. You're like priming them too, because you're not telling them you're gonna launch them, but you're showing the idea.
Exactly, right? Which once again, people don't think about doing this because they're just very, they're very like concerned with, oh, is this going to even work? Are customers even interested in this? Their interest completely stems from you asking them a questions. For them to be like, yes, this is my favorite out of these 4 options, they have a lot higher of a chance of purchasing that product than if you were to just go ahead and release it and not even ask them for their opinion, right? And now this is the kicker. Make sure that you're only sending this to people that have purchased, not like random people that have just signed up on your list. Because like, say for example, Arie, you're on the list, you're a purchaser, I'm on the list, I'm not a purchaser. Who's more likely to purchase again after answering that questionnaire? The person that's previously purchased from that brand, because they have the higher intent. And this goes without say, of course, with any sort of marketing endeavor, right? Any sort of marketing avenue, whether it be Facebook, Google, previous purchasers have a much higher chance of coming back and purchasing than first-time purchasers. It's just a given. So now the main thing is getting those people onto your email list. Say you already have a pretty small list. In this case, the exact list we had was around 100,000, which once again, you've seen brands with more than that. Like it's not difficult to grow to that. Those can be customers, those can be signups, those could be anything along those realms, right? And what you essentially want to do is you want to get them onto this list, specifically wanting to purchase your products, signing up for whether it be early access, everything, anything around the realm. So what we went ahead and did was we introduced the idea of product launches to them, right? So we did this 8 months ago prior to this one, right? That very first benchmark of people being like, this is new. This is something that we haven't done before. You guys launched something, it's sold out. Maybe some of the, some of the moms, some of the people that were on the list, they're like, hey, I wanted to buy it tomorrow. We would get a lot of emails like that. I wanted to buy this tomorrow, but you get sold out. So after you do drop 1, drop 2, drop 3, typically from what we've seen by drop 3, we would see people getting used to it a lot more. That's where we saw a much higher uptick. We were doing about maybe 200K drops then, 300K drops then. But once again, it wasn't to this extent because their profits still sort of stayed the same. They're still running ads as per usual. Everything was still the same. And the huge kicker in all of this, by the way, we doubled their profit margin on this drop day. So they profited like actually 500,000, roughly about 500,000. When if they were to do this normally, just by running ads, their profit would be around 22-23%, which is insane.
That's really interesting to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. And they did less work as well too, because the only thing that we were doing is just basically hype, and this is where we get into it, going ahead and hyping these people up. So in this case, they were spending around 20,000 total on the ads versus the tens of thousands that they're spending per day. Because the main goal that we were doing is to basically spend this money on the ads, whether it be a traffic sign up, whatever it would be, a traffic intent, engagement intent, whatever their normal ads were, we were sending them to a sign up page, right? So we were still getting new people coming in. They were still spending on ads, but they weren't spending on conversion based ads. They weren't looking for ROAS. They weren't looking for that. They were just spending money blindly, just because we basically told them to, because we know it works, and hoping for the list to grow, and the list did grow, right? With $20,000 spent, we got, I believe, an extremely, they had a few organic videos go viral as well too. That's why I always preach it's good to do both paid as well as organic, right? But we were able to get roughly around, I don't think it's mentioned here, an additional like 60,000 people. And I believe majority of that probably came from organic, but still about 20,000 came from paid, which is really good.
And were
20,000.
those videos and ads like leading people to like would it be like sign up for this product drop or is it just like sign up to our email list
It
period?
was sign up to this product launch.
Okay.
Yes. So it was very specifically curated to that product launch.
Dope.
So that's a good point that you brought up as well too, because a lot of times people they'll try to do the strategy and then they'll just run it to a very basic sign up form,
Yeah.
and it'll have a lot lower of a sign up rate than something that would be actually targeted. Because say if I give you, hey, we're launching on May 28th at this time, and it shows an image of the collection versus it just says, hey, sign up to our collection for our next release. The one where it's more specific is going to get a lot higher for opt-in rate, right? And that's something that we realized a couple months into the drop as well too, where even though there's customers that will just blindly sign up, it will do a lot better for the people that are a little bit more interested to have all that information available, right? And you can make these pages very simple. We made them on Pagefly, right? You can have a countdown timer. You can have a sign up form. We have a very specific two-step sign up form that has a lot higher of a conversion rate. But making sure you're collecting both email, SMS, that's all that really matters. And then ultimately porting them into your email list, making sure that they receive a welcome email, just letting them know that, hey, we got you. We're releasing on this day, this time. Same thing with the text. Text is huge. But yeah, nevertheless, now that we have these people into it, so that was phase one.
Mm-hmm.
We do everything in phase one, meaning the hype up and the build up of everything like that. It's done within a week of launch date. This took about 10, 12-ish days. So they're spending a lot less money. They're making a lot less revenue. They went from making, 30 to 50K down to like 10K, 15K, probably even less than that. There's some days that were pretty scary. And they're kind of annoyed with us, but they're like, hey, you know what? We trust the process.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, ultimately then what ends up happening is now that we've collected all these leads, now we want to set that launch date, of course, or we've already had that launch date set. We're about a week out. So what do we do with those leads? What do we do with those leads as well as the customers that are already on the list that don't even know about this? Let's go ahead and start building hype. And by doing this, we'll essentially be letting them know that, hey, we're releasing at this date, this time, with only this amount of SKUs available. And they know we're not lying because in the previous drops, what happened? They sold out, right? So since we've sold out in the past, we can already go ahead and tell them that, hey, we have this benchmark set. We are going to sell out. We're expected to sell out, right? But it's always a rule of thumb for us, have more inventory available than you expect to sell out. So in this case, we actually did sell out of about 2,500 units on our previous one, right? So now, even though we had 10,000, we knew that we were going to sell out 2,500 within like a couple of hours, guaranteed for sure. But we wanted to obviously push that. If we didn't sell it, that's completely fine because we'll sell it through ads anyways. But I don't want to say our break even, but like our even to them not being pissed at us and making sure that this is actually worth it was around roughly like 5,000 units.
Mm-hmm.
That would have gotten them to about 500K days. Still around the same profit that they would have had they just been running ads normally, right? So that's something that we knew going into it. Okay, we needed at least do 500K, which wasn't too terrible because their previous launch we did around 250, 300, and it sold out. So
Right.
it was fun. So like I was saying, and I preach about this all the time, just inform your customers, send out 3 to 4 emails prior to the launch, one a few days out, one maybe 3 days out, one 24 hours out, then one on launch day, and then maybe a follow-up one as well too, assuming you don't sell out. But in this case, we didn't have to do that because they already sold out. Then you basically just have your launch day, you drop, you send a code for them to unlock the site. In this case, we didn't do that. So for all our other collections, we didn't. We went ahead and we had a password for early access. We didn't do this because we had so many people that were already on the site, and we wanted to take advantage of that. We didn't know how many people were actually coming in from the organic videos as well too that were going viral. So we didn't want to take the chance of these customers coming onto the site and they don't know the password, right?
Right.
So it's missed out revenue right there. So ultimately, we went ahead and launched it. 30 minutes later, you could open up the site to public, or you could just open up all together, right? Early access is only really good for, I'd say its infancy, the first ever launches. But relatively for a brand like this that's been doing launches for a couple months now and stuff, we usually pull away that early access just because everyone is already in the know-how. They know that, hey, it's going to be releasing at this date, this time. And yeah, long story short, we did $1 million with 50% margin. Making sure that you're building that FOMO after you launch as well too is something that people don't talk about, because if you go ahead and you have this amazing launch and you're ecstatic and you're happy and everything like that, and then you try to do it a month later, it's not going to do the best, because you didn't let your customers know what they missed out on. You didn't let them know that it sold out within this amount of time. You didn't let them know, you didn't send them pictures of, the team panicking to put all the products inside packing slips and send them out, different things like that, right? So
True. That's a missed opportunity because like that you're basically setting up the next drop by doing that.
absolutely, right? So now you're seeing a pattern of these things with the polls, with the building up of things. Every single opportunity for us to send out an email is also an opportunity for a customer to go from, I'm not really interested in this, to, oh, I'm very interested. I appreciate you guys letting me know about this information, my input, everything like that. I'm going to partake in this next launch, right? So that's a huge thing. This is a huge milestone for us, obviously, at the agency with this brand as well too. And ultimately, took a huge risk, but now we're even more confident to now do this for other brands in a very similar situation. And, it just builds up one of those things for us to boast about. We could very comfortably say that we've done this multiple times now, rather than just like being one-hit wonders, or people being like, oh, it was like you guys were an influencer-backed, celebrity-backed launch. It was for a merch launch, which at the time I was like, you know what? Yeah, it was pretty easy to do it when you're backed by millions of followers. But now this is something a bit different. It took months and months for us to even get to this point. But nevertheless, we did a really amazing job.
That's amazing, bro. I mean, I really think it's cool that it wasn't a traditional like streetwear brand where like drops are kind of like a really normal thing.
Of course, yeah.
Just knowing that applies to other businesses, I think it's so powerful. And like you said too, it's such a good way to re-engage your customer list and just like build a more like a lot of people don't know how to build like a community, right?
Yeah.
But they know how powerful that can be. This is such a great way to do that because you're gonna make more profit and you're also like investing in your customers for the future.
And exactly, and that's a huge thing that we take aim at, because when sending emails in a month with a massive brand, we'll send like 15, maybe 16, 17 emails, right? Every single month, if they're of the same substance, if they're talking about, hey, sale here, sale this, okay, cool, let's be a little bit more innovative. Let's do a new offer, new bundles, new different things. By month 3, month 4, what more offer wise are you going to do? Like, are you going to keep on sending the same emails over and over again, the same offers over and over again? You have to do something that stands out from your competitors. That's the main thing. And more importantly, you're able to build a relationship with your customers that goes past just the transactional basis of, hey, here's a product, here's a discount, buy it, right? And this is a great way of doing that, because you're building a relationship. Customers are now building collections of these products, right? And it used to be a thing where, okay, you could only have that with clothing brands or brands where it's fashion or anything like that. Now it's transferring over. This is a home accessory brand. This isn't any sort of like, there's no reason for some of the customers to have 10 of these, but they do. Same thing with beauty brands. We do this for beauty brands, supplement brands. There's no reason for you to have 5 different creatine flavors. There's no reason for you to have 10 different, lip balm flavors, but people will obviously come and buy it because they'll see something for a limited amount of time and they want to be a part of that.
Yeah, it plays on their psychology. That's so smart, bro. And it's undervalued. I mean, I'm assuming even when brands turn ads off to like only invest in leads, they probably end up being really profitable too on those days, because they're not spending on ads. So like,
absolutely, yeah, because now you have your organic taking over. Emails are still running as is. Customers are coming onto the site, and I wouldn't even say you would need to fully turn off ads. It's just more so like cutting budget by 90% or duplicating it and cutting the budget by 90%, just because I guess eventually they're going to want to scale those ads back up, which is completely fine, right? So they don't want to lose the data on that, but it's just more so, making sure you're not taking an excessive loss for no reason. If you can get the same result, for example, in this case, while saving an additional 25% margin, making an additional 250K. Not every brand is going to make an extra 250K, but if a brand's doing 100K a month and they do a $10,000 day drop and their profit margins, 50%, right? That's 5K for them that they would probably have taken maybe 10 days, 15 days for them to even get that profit, right?
Yeah.
So it just comes down to what are you really aiming for? Are you aiming for crazy numbers? We know, I mean, in the Twitter space, we know brands that are doing like $40 million a year with like 2% margins, 3% margins,
True.
which of course, power to them. But at the end of the day, for like an average brand owner, I feel like they're just really looking for a solid profit margin that can be balanced out throughout the month. And we've seen people that are like, throughout the entire month, they'll have a 15, 20% margin, which isn't the best. And then one of these launch days will have a 50% margin. And the average just comes up to like 25, 30%, and they're ecstatic.
So
Like it's
true.
the greatest day ever.
That's a great point. I mean, especially too for like inventory forecasting, like that's probably the biggest thing because like that's what destroys a lot of ecom businesses is like overstocking things or not having enough
Or
stock.
understocking, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But with
Lead
this
times
way,
suck for some brands. Yeah.
for real. No, that's super clever. I'm curious, like, what are some other things just generally that because you regularly are getting like 30% additional revenue for brands for via email, like why isn't everybody doing that?
So to answer that question, and like majority of email marketers will just be like, "Oh yeah, all of our clients are crushing it." We have some clients that like for till month 3 they were like in the gutter, like 12%, 13%, even like 8%, like really really hard for us to get their customers coming back and purchasing. But then month 4, month 5, now we're up to 15, 20%, and like we just basically mentioned, it's building your customer list to let you know that you're an actual brand and you're not just there for your money, right? So say a brand goes from literally sending 0 emails to now all of a sudden they're sending 1 email per week, 2 emails per week. As a customer, if this is foreign to me, right? If I've never received an email from you guys, right? I'm just gonna think it's spam. I'm gonna think it's promotional. I'm gonna think it's all these things. But now, if you're giving me interactive ways to now communicate with you as a brand, to give my input for us to partake in like fun launches and drops and stuff, then it's almost as if like they're more inclined to give you their money because they're like, oh, I'm not giving it to you because you're asking for it. I'm giving it to you because I want to give it to you,
Yeah.
right? So it all comes down to the type of brand you have, right? Like even for example, as of recently, like we onboard one product stores as a challenge sometimes just because we know like, hey, their lifetime value is going to be probably like 4%, 3, 4%. Like their return customer rate is going to be terrible. But we're still going to take them on because they're doing crazy high revenue. They're getting so many new people coming in. This can be such an easy cash cow if they just release different colors, different products that are similar to this because they already have the demographic for it, right? But yeah, I just really don't think a lot of brands understand that this is the power of what emails could be,
Yeah.
truly in its like full scope. They just really just look at it like, oh yeah, abandoned carts, sending out emails,
Right.
occasional sale from time to time, which once again, that's a way that might have worked maybe like 5, 7 years ago. Up until like 2020, that was still the main way people were doing it. And even now, some people are doing it like that, but your competitors are going to have you beat at the end of the day. They're definitely going to be the ones that are taking the cake, especially if they're doing interactive newsletters, if they're giving you information, educational information outside of just selling the product itself. Like for example, for us, our supplement brands, like we're sending out newsletters, sometimes even advertorials on what it is that these products will help you do. How can you work out in the gym while taking these products? How can you go about your day while taking these products? Or even, what kind of meal plan should you have alongside with these products? Like those are the type of things that you should be doing rather than like, oh, this supplement is now 50% off.
Yeah.
Buy it now. It's going to help you do this, this, and this. It's good to have those emails, but it's time and place as well too. You need to have a mix.
I like that. Yeah, like providing value. And
Yeah.
that's such a good way to do it through like an owned list. Because, I mean, I remember somebody said it a while ago. I don't remember who, but they were like, an email list is kind of like a ATM. Like you can kind of just like cash in if you really want to.
If we really want to, yeah. And that, yeah, that's so true. And you see that happening a lot of times, especially around like Black Friday, like times where customers are a lot more lenient to the stuff. Like, for example, I wouldn't be pushing newsletters during Black Friday. There's no reason for me to do it just because that's the time of the year where people are looking to buy. They want discounts, they want sales, right? So it's knowing your audience. It's also being skillful in your marketing and knowing time and place, right?
Timing, yeah.